Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. I'm going to record another one today. Very interesting. I've been looking at confidence and innocence for quite a while. These are not just words. Of course, I'm using words to denote two very, very powerful energies. This confidence and innocence. In fact, those are two energies that, you know, every conflict is ever been created is about those two energies, and how in the matrix cannot cultivate that and it has to steal from something. This is why matrix always has abuser and abused. It's just the nature of the matrix, otherwise it cannot function. I don't want to go too much about the matrix today, but I want to go into those two energies and to see how those energies ought to be cultivated. Because you, as a soul, you're here to create your dream, first of all, and for that you're gonna need confidence and innocence. Those two types of the masculine and feminine energies that are required to create your dream. Now, these energies goes from the soul, the mind, and the body. You can rename them as they go. And the soul, you can call them etheric energies, and in the mind, you can call them like a mana energy, sometimes so frequently used in the video game. And in the body, it's a vital energy, right? So, in all those three levels, those two energies, which you would call confidence and innocence, are necessary to create from the start to the finish, whatever is your dream. And your opponent, which is, you can call it matrix, is here to prevent you from creating that dream, in order for you to learn how to protect these energies, grow in power and compassion, as I call it, or passion and compassion, if you will. As you can see, you can put a lot of labels on it, but the real power or the real passion and the real compassion are at the basis of everything. And that is what's required from those two energies to make confidence and innocence, which is a soul energy that is required for soul to create and play. But it can only get that either stealing from somebody else or from the source, from this side, or that side, from manipulating the other souls, or from the source where there is. Now, for the soul to connect to the source, there is a challenge. It's always coming up, and so you always have to reconnect, to recharge yourself with those two energies in order to replenish your confidence and innocence. And for that you need courage and surrender. Okay, but the courage and surrender is to surrender to that primordial state of consciousness. At this point, we're not talking about other person in this particular case. It's just basically between your soul and source. That's it. This is why it's a complete and solo game. And as I always say, that all spirituality is a solo game. And if it's not a solo game, it's a theater and a show, and is nothing to do with how the spirit works. Yeah, okay? So, reality is being created through the confidence and innocence, through those two energies. The entire reality, the entire theater is created using those two energies. Now, to specify a little bit more about the confidence and to differentiate it from the courage, okay, and the innocence as well. And so if you have like raw power, raw energy, right, which you acquire through the courage, it's just the raw energy. Now you gotta do something with it, right? And to do something with it, you need confidence. And confidence is not just that raw energy that you acquire through the courage, raw power, which feels like bliss. It's a state of consciousness, nothing, you know, fancy. But now you have to use that energy um, for the particular, for the accomplishment of particular vision, which is your soul dream. And you will obviously, if you are working to connect to the source and alchemize the energies, you will, of course, be very aware of what that dream is. And every person's dream is kind of unique. Every soul's dream, I shouldn't say person, but every soul's dream is a unique. It is basically in this reality, there's certain dreams that you ought to create, and they're there already. You are discovering what is your dream, not inventing or making it up. Okay, you are discovering what is your dream, and it comes to you. The closer you are to the source, the more clearly you understand of what you are and what kind of pattern you are, and what kind of pattern you are here to imprint in the world. And that's your soul game. And I love that stuff, man. Like, I really love watching people act from the soul and create something from the soul. And as much as I love this, it really annoys me when people get away with bullshit and with their ego games. I'm a complete and total antithesis, and hopefully a menace against ego, my own and other people's. Now, saying that, we're gonna go now to see what is required for the confidence to be, because just raw power is not enough. Okay, yes, you, through alchemy, you can acquire raw power. Good for you. I'm talking about the masculine side of it, and I'm going to go into the feminine. Now, with that power, there has to be a will to create something, which is there automatically, and you just have it sort of burning inside of you. But when does it change into the confidence? And I really looked at it carefully. I really looked at it carefully, and I said, what is the difference between confidence and courage? And what happens is when that energy is then being shaped in some kind of form. Okay? And that energy is shaped into the form through what you may call skill. Okay? And there are a lot of skills on all these levels, in the soul, in the mind, and in the body. You can be skilled at all of those three levels. You cannot be skilled in God, because it's just is what it is, and it's not really. But in order for you to create your dream, you got to learn certain types of skills. Okay? And when you combine that power energy that arises through courage, as you face the things that you need to face, then you got to add another layer to it, which is a skill. And whenever you combine that raw power with a skill, you have unstoppable confidence. If you have just raw power, no skill, you're not going to be able to organize it well enough into what you're trying to create. Now, see, pay attention of what I'm saying here, because I don't see people talking about this. People talk about, well, at least not the people that I'm watching, but um, people are talking about how kind of disable the mind and go to that stillness, to that peace, to that bliss. And that's great. I'm talking about this. But here in this video, I'm saying that that's just the first step. And I want to acknowledge the fact that the very important fact that you're here as a soul to create a type of dream. You're not. The game is not over once you discover the source, that state of consciousness that is always kind of with you. The game is not over. The game is starting, and you're here. Your mission, if you will, or purpose, is to create something that your soul desires, that is already there imprinted. That's what you got to do. And 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 look, and it doesn't matter really what that is. And it's not there, for example, it's not in vanity, in a sort of like a vanity sense, that like, oh, I'm going to do this because then, again, from the ego point of view, there's like, oh, I'm going to prove a point or whatever. And a lot of people get trapped in this, and they lose in that moment. They lose what the soul desires. And the soul may desire something like create something, make a music. And some people, they create like masterpieces and they never release it, because they really enjoyed that creative process, and they really enjoyed the people close to them, that they're in their circle of enjoying this, and it keeps this value, this very personal and private value, that it's not dirtied up into make it, publishing in the matrix. It has more value when it's not publicized to some people. So, and I really admire that. To me, that's like, there's certain things that you probably have to publish it, and there's certain things that you shouldn't, but you know which one it is. I don't want to kind of stray off the subject here, and that's why you have to learn a certain type of skill to express that energy that soul desires. Okay? And I'm talking about the purpose side of it, and I'm talking about the masculine side of it. Both of these sides go hand in hand. In this level, everything is in harmony. You cannot have the purpose without the meaning, and you cannot have the meaning without the purpose. But normally, if you're a masculine, if you're a masculine polarized soul, you tend to be more, which means like, what kind of gender are you, really? And I just have to mention that in the ego world, these things are wired up in a messy way, but in the soul world, it's very clear of what kind of energy are you. Normally, if you selected to play like a male, most often, like majority of the time, large majority of the time, you are basically a masculine polarized soul. Okay. And vice versa. Now, and I made the video before about this to distinguish that you're not some sort of hermaphrodite. You're not here to sort of achieve neutrality through, you're not here to achieve neutrality through going directly into the neutrality. You're not gonna have you're not gonna be happy. You have to, if you're masculine polarized soul, you have to be an embodiment of passion that is laser focused and directed. And it's not easy to control that energy, but this is what you came for. And only then, after your fulfillment of your purpose, the meaning arises, and only then the overspill of that goes into the neutrality, and sort of these rewards are coming in. only upon accomplishment of the mission, of the purpose, whatever your soul desire. And as you accomplish that, then the rewards coming in, and these are like earned rewards. I know people, enough of these people, but like Matrix, it's always these beliefs that are not correct, and programming, the psyop operations of the Matrix that makes people think that, oh, it's okay. No, like, man, you are here to play the game, right? And you got to learn how to play the game, and you got to do really good in this game. And I don't mean Matrix game. You're supposed to forget that shit. It is your soul, independent on anybody else's. Like, what makes you go, what you enjoy, whether anybody sees you doing it or not. What is that thing? And because that energy that you have, you're gonna have to express it. And soul will always want to create that thing and always want to play that thing. You can postpone it. It's just not gonna go away. All your life, it will be gnawing at you if you ignored it and you played some fucking bullshit Matrix game, vanity-driven nonsense. Anyway, hopefully I'm driving this point home. But I also want to contrast this in two ways. I want to contrast it to the other side of the gender, and then I want to side to the dark versions of that. Okay. So now going to the innocence, and the innocence is the energy is also very peculiar, and it's very powerful. This is another thing in the Matrix that people are belittling an innocence as something weak. It's not weak. It is exactly what determines what's going to be created. It is that part of your subconscious mind that determines that what does it believe. And if it believes that is what's going to be created. It's very powerful. So, and it arises through surrender, which you access the energy of compassion. And the energy of compassion then also has to be formed as well, but not in a structured way as on the masculine side, not through the skills, but through playfulness. And playfulness is a type of spontaneous form, right? But if you're an artist, if you have created anything, you know that you have to have both. Like, as you're creating, you may have like a rough idea of what you're going to create, but as you're creating, you can see that the universe may be collaborating with you through the spontaneity, and you may not have had a plan to add something there, but it's sort of like it just happens. And sometimes it's like, oh, this looks like an error, but it's just like, is it really an error? Let's look at it and say, oh, that's actually adding to my art. And you have not planned it, it just happened. And so that through some sort of playfulness, and you allow that playfulness for that thing to happen. So there's this confidence and innocence collaborating, and then you get the experience that your soul desires, the art that you may create for other people to experience. That's when the creme de la creme happens. Okay. Now, to contrast the dark side of these energies, and if power is something that creates things, then the opposite of the power would be, you can call it ego, or whatever, but it's the opposite of the real power. We can call it ego. The compassion as well. The opposite of the compassion is a type of like a devouring energy. Okay, it's again, we're talking about the ultimate corrupted masculine, corrupted feminine, out of which then you have to have, like, for example, you say, well, the skill is kind of neutral, right? You can have skill and you can go from the arrogance or the confidence. And the arrogance happens is when the skills are acquired without any kind of true courage. And so then, if there's a skill but there's no true courage, then there's an arrogance and there's an imitation of that energy, and it's faking, and the person knows that it's faking, but it's faking, and sometimes gullible people buy into it and they think that that is confidence, but there was arrogance all along. Again, this is something that's very prevalent and it's very slippery, and very few people have a true arrogance, excuse me, true confidence. Because true confidence does not uh, refer to something that is time based, like the, the acquisition of that power through courage is not about your accomplishment in the past or your projections of the future. It's not about that. It comes from the infinite, from the infinite. So if anybody accomplished something in the past and they go on that, that's arrogance. Or if they think that they're going to create something in the future, that's also arrogance. It's not confidence. You can create with arrogance too, but it's going to be fucked up, and you're going to probably use somebody, um, okay, to do that, because arrogance has to steal the energy from somebody. So, and most people run on the arrogance. It's about something they have created in the past, or it creates this persona, and it's like and the people judge the person. It's like, well, what? Oh, you've done this in the past. Okay, so then I'm gonna give you a credit. Well, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that that person, because they created that, they're going to like create some value in your life that in that particular moment and whatnot. Anyway, I'm just trying to say that arrogance is time based, confidence is infinite. Okay, it is like, even the skills, you may say, well, isn't it the skill is a memory that you got to kind of learn? But the skill is also already there, that you got to kind of chisel it away. The skill is also infinite. Okay, it's already there. I know that there is might be illusion that we have to put that in, but you actually just like, you got to discover it, those skills within you. It's a different type of approach. With the arrogance, yes, you have to kind of hammer them in, um, but with the confidence, you discover these skills, because every time you learn something, and then somebody is like teaching you, or like you learn some sort of structure, and as you learn, you realize that a lot of the skills that you're discovering, these are specifically your skills tailored for you, and they cannot be taught by somebody else. Only the guidance can be given, because that real skill is inside of you. It's the way you do things. And um, at least for me, like if I'm learning something and I'm discovering that thing already, sort of like almost like remembering it, not that somebody's teaching me how to do it. And I don't like when somebody is kind of trying to uh, impose some sort of structure by teaching me. I want to discover that within myself, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I just got off the topic a little bit, but I just wanted to differentiate the arrogance between the confidence. Now, the other side, the innocence, is the corrupted side of innocence is cunningness. And that's what it's like, a faked innocence, right? There's no actual state of innocence. So that's where like this seduction is coming from, and this is like the whole culture of uh, faked innocence in in you know in the whole culture of like when a woman are selling themselves for money, for whatever reason, um, they're faking innocence because they're not really in a state of innocence, uh, to get the money. So the cunningness, and so that's why the the cunningness is about manipulating the situation and the dark side of the innocence. Okay. Again, I'm just simplifying everything to the basics, and there is um, just two ways of living, as I always say. Um, but as you can see, even the playfulness, there could be spontaneous playfulness from the innocence, and it could be imitated, right? It could be like imitated playfulness. All these motions, seductive motions that women do, they're not really feeling that. They're not being moved by the energy. The playfulness does not come from within. It's an act. It's false. It's fake. It doesn't have any kind of substance. Um, it's a type of, you know, it's not real. There's a real side of it, and but that's usually not sold. That's usually um, a private kind of thing. Anyway, sorry about the noise in the background. So to summarize this, confidence arises when the courage and skill is mixed together, and innocence arises when the surrender and playfulness are mixed together. And then the confidence, once you have the confidence and innocence, then they together create something amazing. And that usually it's about an experience, a memory. Um, it's it's a process of creation that has the enjoyment in itself. Even though there's a purpose there on a masculine side, there's a meaning side on a feminine side. um, the purpose always leads to the meaning, and the meaning always leads to the purpose. For example, um, in order for somebody to have a meaning, for example, if you want to get to know somebody or connect with somebody, if you're going to go directly to that person and say like, hey, let's connect, like, I don't know, some people maybe cool with that, but it's usually you need some sort of purpose. Go for a walk on the beach, or any kind of purpose, that is some sort of activity that is a purpose, but the meaning is not to walk. The meaning is to connect. The feelings that you're feeling throughout the experience, that's the meaning. This is why when people say something that's void of meaning, it means everything's imitated, but it doesn't have the substance, which are the feelings. And that's what soul wants to create. It wants to create the experience of these feelings. And it's like an experience, almost like music of feelings. And that's what soul wants. That's the meaning. But as you can see, you can't have pure meaning without a purpose. You need to have some sort of structure, right? And so that's why the skill is necessary for the purpose, and the playfulness is necessary for the innocence, for the meaning, I suppose. I hope I'm making sense here. In this video, I wanted to just send a message about the importance of those two energies, and that if you can cultivate them and protect them, then your dream will come true. Your real soul dream, not some vain ego bullshit, but your real soul dream that you're here to create will come true. And if you just cultivate those two energies. And I don't really like when people say, well, there's nothing to do. They're talking about that void state or stillness, and from that state of consciousness, you can see that, or it feels like contentment and fulfillment is already there, and it's just like, why do anything? I don't like this philosophy. I think that contentment and fulfillment is a basis to do something. And now you're not doing it to get anything out of it. You're doing it to create and play. And then the soul wants it. Because if the soul doesn't get it, what's going to happen? If the soul cannot have that, the ego is going to be taking over again. And so that's why it's so important to realize that just sitting, in that state of consciousness, of stillness, um, of the contentment, is not enough. You may notice, like, if you just think that that's only enough, then uh, you may see how, or you may notice how, like, the ego is fighting that and trying to come back online. And so, and the real reason it's happening is because you are not fulfilling your soul desire. So what I'm saying here is that not only that you got to discover that basis of contentment, that's just the first phase. You have to express those energies through soul desire, and then ego is not going to be a problem for you. Okay. You cannot deny the playfulness and creativity to your soul. It has to be there. And some people, when they let to be creative and playful, the ego disappears, the problem disappears, because they're capable of expressing their creativity, and playfulness, which is the whole point of your soul. Just wants to create and play. And if you defend your throne of that peace and bliss and do something with it, in terms of not something but exactly what your soul desires, and you do that, then everything's going to be in equilibrium for the rest of your life. It may need some tweaking again, but now you at least you know exactly what's going on. They say that, okay, just sitting in that state of contentment is not enough, even though everybody's sending this message, because it isn't. You also have to make sure that your soul, the will of your soul, is flowing. You have to make sure that whatever it takes, that confidence and innocence in any kind of circumstances, it continue flowing. It has to be that, so this way. And yes, sometimes you have to fight for it. And so that power defends the right for the soul to be creative, and that compassion defends the right for the soul to be playful. The fathering and the mothering energy defends the soul from the tyrannical forces and gives space for creativity and playfulness, so then the ego does not appear. But when the soul goes into the matrix, and they have that confidence and that innocence energy, and they just it gets abused, and then sort of enthusiasm gets curbed, because in matrix, how fucking dare you to be happy? How fucking dare you to be happy doing what you love? And that's pretty much it. And then there are just people who are pretending that they don't feel like that. But everybody in the matrix has this type of feeling, and it's not fun. It is absolutely not fun. This is why, like, I was sort of like participating in that game, like, and thinking that, like, well, let's play. But then I saw that, like, no, that's not fun. Like, I have to become a bit of an someone who I'm not. Like, in order to deal with other people's ego, you have to grow like even stronger ego, and so you have to, like, what do you call, tough skin and shit like that. And no, I don't want to have tough skin. I like my skin as it is. It's nice, and I don't even consider, like, tough anything that's tough. The only thing that's I wouldn't even call it tough, but that infinite bliss is, to me, is a real power, and I don't have to close myself off, protect myself from anybody. All I have to do is the opposite, actually, open up all the way to the source and let that energy shine. And that feels like immovable, something immovable, and it is immovable. And so it doesn't take sort of my uh, egoic effort to control the situation or act tough, even though there isn't the feeling of, instead of trying to say, like, fake. That's what arrogance means. And no, thank you. I don't want that. That's ego masculine, and it's not real masculine. And I don't want to play that game. And so I refuse to play that game. There's got to be a better way. That's not masculine to me. This is just like somebody who's closed off, acting the role of a masculine person, but really inside you just push comes to shove, and you just scrape through that tough skin, and you find an animal, and not a pretty sight. So fuck the tough skin. I put all my trust in that light, in that bliss energy. That's the only thing that cannot be fucked with. It's just impossible to fuck with it. And that also does everything for me. It basically automatically, energetically, on an energetic level, pushes the people away that not supposed to be around me, and pulls the people towards me that's supposed to be around me. And so this way, my protection is not tough skin or closedness. The opposite is complete dissolution of all of that and letting that light shine through, and that light is going to be doing its thing. And this is what I put my faith in. And the only thing I gotta do is keep defending that throne for that light to come, keep shining through. And what else I can say about that? And the same thing for the woman. If you go to play this Matrix game, what happens is usually they try to squeeze you into some one, little box over there that is dedicated for you. And then either the woman has one of the two options: surrender to the things that she doesn't want to surrender to the structure that leads not to the great feelings but something bad, or go to the masculine strategy and start creating this tough skin and all that nonsense, right? None of it is what your soul wants. It's neither a masculine, neither a feminine. It's some sort of abomination. But the true feminine energy is the compassion, is that stillness, is that peace. And it's also very protective. Why? Because in the stillness, the spells do not go, right? In the stillness, in the quiet, in the void, in the vacuum, there's no sound, so there's no negative spells that can take place. And that's the power of the true feminine. And then when it's there, there's a protection, and then the innocence can arise, because then you just add a little bit of playfulness to that energy, and you feel safe. And when you combine that power and that compassion, or passion and that compassion, that primordial energy, then the evil cannot touch you, and there's safety, and the soul can express itself the way it wants to express, without, you know, it becomes a type of like selective openness. Um, a woman is no longer gullible, and she doesn't open to just any kind of structure, and feel, quote unquote, empowered, which is what the Matrix is trying to sell to the woman. But in the contrast of that compassion energy, she feels everything, and she doesn't need to do anything. That energy will push the people that, when their game is not working, they're not gonna be interested in playing with you. If they can't take your energy anymore, they're gonna look for another victim. Okay? And if you approach this type of woman with your bullshit, crooked nonsense, as a man, learn some manipulative tactics and some dating advice and whatnot, which is just basically, most men have became these fucking social robots, then you're just gonna have your ass handed to you, and this type of woman is not gullible to your fucking brainwashing nonsense. You're gonna look like a clown, and you don't deserve this type of woman, because you're not a man. You're a social robot, and fuck you. So that's my take on it. But if you as a man focus on cultivating that confidence energy, and again, I'm telling you, it's not about the future or the past. And if you catch yourself about like, oh, I feel good because I have accomplished something in the past, that's arrogance. Or it's like, oh, I have big plans in the future, so that's also arrogance. And you don't want that energy, because it's very fragile. See, confidence is not fragile, because it's based on the infinite. It doesn't go away. Even when you fuck things up, there's nothing there that can crash. Arrogance is a structure that can crash, but confidence cannot crash. You know. And as I'm talking to you, of course, I'm giving the same type of advice to myself, because the reason I'm sending this message, because that's became very obvious to me when the arrogance is trying to sneak in, and then, because then it's trying to sneak in and just try to like take charge, and say that it is what's necessary for me to accomplish something or fulfill my desire, whatever. But it's false. It's not true, because it can flop, because it's conditional. And if the conditions are not kind of met, that arrogance flops. And so this is why I don't want that anymore. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm recognizing that this is not it, and I want real confidence. I do not want the arrogance. This is why it doesn't matter what I fucking accomplished in the past, and it doesn't fucking matter what I'm going to be, what my plans are for the future. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, can I express every day and do what I love? That's the only thing that matters. And this confidence does not go away. Circumstances may change, but I'm still, if So I'm trying to say, like, if I can express my soul, um, it doesn't go away. And somebody can say something about me, something negative or something positive. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because everything is from the outside is temporal. But this type of confidence is based on the infinite. Because my basis of the contentment is never going to go away, and as long as I then use that energy in some sort of learning a skill or applying kind of skill in uh, doing activity that I like, that's it. That's all you need. And sometimes when I go to groups of people, like if I not completely aligned, like I can feel the, because look, there's only one ego, and this is why when people say like, oh, reading other people's thoughts, it's like, ooh, it's not ooh at all. Like it's very easy. It's obvious, but I don't like it because what's the fucking point? I don't see any point. I'd rather not know anything that's going on and just focus on what is my intention. You see what I'm trying to say? Because as long as you don't play ego games, you don't need to know how ego works. You see, there's a categorical cut. It's just like, no, I don't play that game. Homie, don't play that. Hell no, homie, don't play that. Anyway, I think that's it. That's my little rant for today. And I like to rant for like an hour a day. That's part of my. That's part of my shizzle, my nizzle. Is there anything else that you want to know? Well, the same thing with innocence. Cultivate and protect that energy. And also, if you cultivate and protect that energy, it doesn't go away under some criticism or some attack that is trying to take it away from you. It won't go away because it's rooted in an infinite. That state of contentment, that peace, and the playfulness. Now, yes, you do live in another world, of course. And so what? You're gonna meet other people who live in the same world too. And there's, you then you have fun, and then everybody else is playing these matrix games. They don't even register you. I mean, they may look at you as like a weirdo. Why are they having so much fun and laughing for no reason, or for whatever reason, for stupid reason? But it doesn't matter. Nobody cares of what non-player character thinks. Do you think when you play a video game, if you do you care what non-player character thinks? You don't. You play your game like a boss. Pushes. All right, I got to go. And hopefully you had fun. And I'll see you next one. Cheers. Bye.